Right now, it's time to go through the updated top 30 running back rankings for 2024 fantasy football, and I'm going to compare these guys to where they were ranked last time that I did these rankings before the NFL draft changed a lot of things at the running back position. First thing I need you to do, go down there, drop a like on this video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support, because I'm doing everything I can to get us all prepared for the 2024 fantasy football season. Starting out at number 1 and 2, the guys in the same tier here, and I've said it all offseason, with Christian McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson, it's not that I'm saying Bijan Robinson is the level of player that Christian McCaffrey is. What I'm saying when I put him in the same tier is I think he has that upside. And especially now that Arthur Smith is gone, and there's not going to be someone there theoretically trying to use a 2 running back system with him and Tyler Algier and maybe the other guy that they drafted in this NFL draft. Bijan Robinson should be the guy who gets 25, 30 opportunities per game. And I do believe that he has that level of potential that Christian McCaffrey does to get you 20, 21, 22 fantasy points per game. And that's why he's in the same tier as Christian McCaffrey. At number 3 here, last time I did these rankings, Kyren Williams was here at number 3. And there's going to be some changes there that we'll talk about when I get to him in a little bit. But he fell. So it moved everybody else up a spot. And I've got Breece Hall at 3 and Jahmyr Gibbs at 4. Breece was 4 last time and Jahmyr Gibbs was 5 last time. So McCaffrey, Bijan, they're exactly the same. Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, and a couple guys that follow, they moved up a spot because I simply just believe that Kyren Williams is going to experience a dip in fantasy football production this year because of the addition of Blake Corum. When I look at Breece Hall, look, a similar argument can be applied, I guess, because the New York Jets did add 2 different running backs in this NFL draft. What it tells me more is that they're probably looking to move on from their original backup, which was Israel Abanikanda. I don't think it affects Breece Hall. Look, they tried to do this last year with Dalvin Cook. As Breece Hall was coming off a torn ACL, theoretically, it was like the idea of giving him more relief by lessening his workload was an ideal proposition during the offseason. Well, it didn't end up happening at all during the actual 2023 season, which is why Breece Hall was a top 5 fantasy running back. He's simply too elite to take off the field for the Jets. So with Aaron Rodgers there, he'll probably see a very similar amount of targets, and it'll see his efficiency possibly even go up now that there's a legit passing threat if Aaron Rodgers makes it through the whole season. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, the only reason I can't put him above Breece Hall is because I do believe that there's a timeshare there that will occur with Jahmyr Gibbs. He'll maintain his efficiency, he'll maintain his targets per game, but with David Montgomery there, he'll still probably be playing maybe second fiddle at best, a complete split of carries between the two, because David Montgomery is very effective, especially at the goal line. At number 5 and 6, they moved up 1 spot. Jonathan Taylor at 5 and Josh Jacobs at 6. Last time around, they were just 1 ranking lower, both of those guys. So Jonathan Taylor, nothing changed in the NFL draft with the Indianapolis Colts. Like I said, there's history that proves running quarterbacks have efficient running backs in fantasy football. These guys are typically getting 4.5 yards per carry, 5 yards per carry. I think a full season with Jonathan Taylor and with Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor will be efficient, and we will see a top 5 season from him this year. And Josh Jacobs, Green Bay added a 3rd round running back, Marshawn Lloyd out of USC, who I actually did like as a prospect. I thought he was an underrated running back prospect in this class. Am I worried about Josh Jacobs? No, not for 2024. They signed this guy to the biggest running back deal of the offseason. Pretty big running back deal. So the likelihood that they're going to really use Marshawn Lloyd a lot, maybe it's there, but I don't think it'll be at the expense of Josh Jacobs and him getting taken off the field. I think in this efficient of an offense run by Matt LaFleur, this is going to be a great situation for Josh Jacobs and definitely will be better than any year he had with the Las Vegas Raiders. Number 7 and 8, Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. Now, these guys ended up moving 2 spots up because now there's 2 guys who have dropped. Etienne dropped last time he was at 8, and Kyren Williams still has not been named yet. So with Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, they're probably, like throughout the rest of this offseason, going to be around the same spot. These guys are both in very similar situations. They're both on teams with running quarterbacks. So theoretically, like I said, with a guy like Jonathan Taylor, both of these guys are going to be extremely efficient. Now, they're also going to experience the problem, I believe, with less running touchdowns, because a quarterback of Anthony Richardson or Jalen Hurts' size, they're going to be able to take touchdowns away at the goal line. The only difference I have between Jonathan Taylor and Saquon and Derrick Henry is Jonathan Taylor's younger. So theoretically, he's more explosive because he's not close to 30 yet. With Saquon and Derrick Henry, they're both in their late 20s. Derrick Henry actually is 30. So with these guys, I don't see them being able to break off as many big plays. With that said, they both have elite top 5 offensive lines heading into 2024. So their efficiency, it should still be very, very good and definitely worthy of top 10 production in fantasy football. At number 9 and 10, Kyren Williams and Devonta Etienne finally land. So Kyren Williams went from number 3 before the NFL draft in my rankings to number 9. And I do see a change here for Kyren. I think Kyren Williams is in a worse position now than he was originally. Like, they drafted Blake Corum in the 3rd round. And it's not that I think Blake Corum is better than Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams proved himself last year. The problem that I see with Kyren Williams is that we can't really trust the Los Angeles Rams and what they do with running backs, because it's like there's always that, possibility that they just, don't use him quite as much, kind of like a Cam Akers situation. Now, Kyren Williams is coming into the season fully healthy by all accounts, so it shouldn't be that big of a concern. But I am concerned about it because they did use day 2 draft capital on a running back that was highly touted in this year's NFL draft class. And then at 10 with Devonta Etienne, the only thing that really worries me here, because there's been reports this offseason he's been bulking up, he's been gaining weight to increase his durability, which is a good thing because he didn't even handle that much volume last year, and he still had to deal with injuries for basically more than half the season. The efficiency is extreme, and the offensive upside is extreme in Miami's offense, obviously. The only concern I have here is that they did add Jalen Wright out of Tennessee, who I liked better than Blake Corum, for example, out of Michigan. I think Jalen Wright is a great fit in this offense. So it does make me wonder, is Devonta Etienne going to get less volume, or is Raheem Mostert? I think it's more going to be a Raheem Mostert problem since he's older, but I did have to drop Devonta Etienne down 2 spots from the last time I ranked. James Cook lands exactly where he was at 11 originally. And Rachaad White, he raised up to number 12 for me. He was number 16 last time, and I'll get into him in a minute. But with James Cook, there's just no change here. That's really much of anything. Like, they did add a couple running backs to this NFL draft class, but it wasn't anything with serious draft capital attached to them. They did not spend a day 2 pick on a running back in this year's class. It was all day 3, and they got Frank Gore Jr. as an unsigned free agent. So with James Cook, Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, when he took over, James Cook was elite. That's exactly what I see with James Cook. Now it's just going to be season long. We're going to see a lot of efficiency with James Cook, and he's going to be heavily involved in this offense. Rachaad White, the reason he's moving up, I'm just getting more and more in on Rachaad White. The only thing I will not let go of is his lack of efficiency for 2 years straight. 3.6 yards per carry for 2 years straight is just not a good sign. And especially as this guy is 25 already, it does make me wonder, like, is it possible this guy ever gets more efficient? Because typically, these guys at 25, 26, they're dropping in efficiency. So it does make me wonder, but there's no competition. Bucky Irving got drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out of Oregon. He's maybe a pass-catching back at best occasionally. And then they have Chase Edmonds. Like, there's just no competition there for Rachaad White. He's looking to handle another 20, 25 opportunities per game again in 2024. Isaiah Pacheco at 13 and Travis Etienne at 14. Both these guys exactly the same place that they were originally. So with Pacheco and Travis Etienne, they're both in different situations because Pacheco isn't a great offense, obviously. Like, Kansas City's offense, there's no secret. I don't have to tell you that. Their offense is fantastic, and there's going to be, obviously, more efficiency with Isaiah Pacheco because he does have that quarterback stability, having the best quarterback in the league. And Isaiah Pacheco has just done nothing but impress and really do more than his expectations are. So Pacheco had a good year last year. I think it's very similar. I just don't really see like top 10, top 5 upside for him. With Etienne, I think he's going to see a drop. And I've been saying this all offseason, so it shouldn't come as a shock if you've been watching this whole offseason. I do see a drop off in production with Travis Etienne. Not because they added anybody. in the NFL draft, but just because Doug Peterson, the head coach, has said we want to limit his workload in 2024 because he saw how inefficient he got the more opportunities he had. So he wants to maximize his efficiency, and I do think it will come, but it will also come at the expense of less volume. Raheem Mostert at 16 and Dave Montgomery at 15. So Montgomery stays. Raheem Mostert lands here because last time he was at number 12. So David Montgomery, exact same situation. Detroit's offense is exactly the same. Offensive coordinator still there. All the weapons, all the offensive line intact. I see exactly the same thing. Possibly better if Dave Montgomery can stay healthy. Very efficient last year. Had a good year for fantasy points per game. And he's also their red zone running back. So Dave Montgomery is not going away. My favorite value on Underdog right now, as far as running backs in fantasy football drafts right now on Underdog, I would take advantage of that price today using code FFN to get a 100% deposit match. And then Raheem Mostert, again, the same argument applies that I said with Etienne, which is that I do worry about Jalen Wright being out of the room. I do think that with this guy coming in at like 21 years old, there's going to be fresh legs there. And a guy who did, handle 1,000+ yards for his offense last year and was extremely efficient doing it. So he fits Miami's billing perfectly. And Raheem Mostert is in his 30s now. So the chances that we see him have another year like he did last year, probably slimmer, but I still do like Raheem Mostert, especially at the value you're getting him at. If you're looking for more in-depth, super in-depth analysis on all the rookies in this class and where they line up for fantasy football in 2024, you can get your copy of my 2024 rookie draft guide by going to Underdog, signing up using code FFN, and depositing $10, where not only will they match your deposit 100%, but you also get that copy of the draft guide. So go down there in the comments below, sign up using code FFN, get your copy of the draft guide. 17 and 18, Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara, and they're exactly the same place they were. With Joe Mixon, nothing changes in Houston. For me, it's an age thing, and it's also going to be a situation where Houston just passes the ball more. And I do think that they will do that again in 2023. It's kind of a very similar offense to what the Bengals, I think, are going to run, where it's going to be extremely pass heavy. And I don't think there's going to be as many opportunities for the running back, especially with this guy being in his late 20s now. It just makes me wonder how much longer he can provide that kind of upside that he did last year, for example. Top 5 running back, had a great season. But I do think that with this offense here, it's not like it's like a really big upgrade or downgrade. I think it's basically the same with Houston. But I do think a year later, a team that doesn't have as much equity with him, I do think that Joe Mixon probably doesn't have as great of a year. And then Kamara at 18, New Orleans probably is the most stale offense in the league. That's where we're at with the New Orleans offense. Same quarterback, same running backs. I don't worry about Kendre Miller. It's just, not very good. Alvin Kamara is the bright spot in the backfield for sure. He's going to continue to see a bunch of targets and that's a good thing, because his problem last year, he's dropping in efficiency because he's getting closer to 30. So he needs more targets. Hopefully he continues to get a bunch of targets. It looks like it's going to be happening that way as well. Kenneth Walker at 19 and Tony Pollard at 20, exactly the same place they were last time we did these rankings. So with Kenneth Walker, I want to rank him higher. And I know people do argue to me he should be higher on this list. The rationale is I don't think that Zach Charbonnet is going to lose touches. I think he'll gain touches in 2024. He looked good on his work last year. So the idea that he's going to stop getting as many opportunities when he was a second-round pick just 1 year ago is just kind of ridiculous to me. I don't think he's going anywhere. This guy is on the second year of his rookie deal, and he looked good with his opportunities last year. So it's like they're probably just going to continue to give him a little bit more every single year. So that caps the upside of Kenneth Walker, and that's the ultimate problem he's going to see for the foreseeable future. Tony Pollard at 20, I continue to say this. I think Tennessee's offense is a massive sleeper this year. And I actually like him better, even though he didn't really move, because of the fact that Tony Pollard is coming into the season now that they went into the top 10 of the NFL draft and grabbed one of the best tackles in the draft. I think their offensive line is probably going to improve. So we know we're going to see pass catching volume for Tony Pollard. That's what he does well at. And I think his efficiency is possibly going to be better than it was last year with Dallas because he has help with Tyjae Spears. I like Tony Pollard. I've actually drafted a bunch of him in underdog as well. Zamir White comes out of nowhere at 21, and Aaron Jones is at 22. Aaron Jones doesn't move. He was at 22 last time, but Zamir White is over Aaron Jones. He was at 29 last time. So I know I'm going to hear about this one because my thing with Zamir White is that, look, this guy is still in his rookie deal, right? It's not like he had like major draft capital attached to him, but he's much younger than Aaron Jones. He also looked very, very good with the volume that he got last year, especially at the end of the season when there was no Josh Jacobs for those last several weeks. The biggest thing for me, though, and the reason he's ranked over Aaron Jones, I just believe he has more durability at this point in his career than Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is almost 30, and he did not get that many opportunities last year, and he was still injured for basically half the season. I think his body has betrayed him, and I do think his offense is better in Minnesota, and I think he will be efficient when he plays, but I don't believe that this is going to be a situation where all of a sudden he's going to explode again for 20 opportunities per game. I don't think he can handle that. Zamir White proved he could last year. So there's no running back competition added by the Las Vegas Raiders in the NFL draft. I think Zamir White is in line for a very good season in fantasy football, with his ceiling capped still, though, because I don't believe in the quarterback. I don't know much about their offensive coordinator, and I don't believe that the upside of Zamir White is going to be top 10, top 12 in his first year as a full-time starter, because I don't have a lot of answers to those questions that I was just outlining. DeAndre Swift at 23 and James Conner at 24. So Swift last time, he was 24. He rose up a spot for me. And James Conner was 21 last time. He dropped. So with DeAndre Swift, it continues to be an issue with me that a lot of people think he should be hired because, look, DeAndre Swift has done nothing but disappoint us in much better situations. Now, Chicago's situation is all of a sudden very good for fantasy. Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, theoretically taking a lot of pressure off the run game. But Philly had that same thing last year with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. And Detroit had that his last year there as they continue to grow as well. So I just don't buy into this narrative that all of a sudden DeAndre Swift is going to show us top 10 upside. I don't love Chicago's offensive line still. And I think the older DeAndre Swift gets, he'll just become less and less efficient, as history shows us with running backs. And then James Conner at 24. There was obviously the addition of my favorite running back in this class, Trey Benson. Do I think Trey Benson will start year one? No. That's why James Conner is higher than Trey Benson on these rankings. But I do believe there will be more of an emphasis on Arizona's end to take more pressure off of Conner. He's not exactly the cleanest bill of health, and the reality is he is good when they use him. So I think that they probably view him as a more stable option at the running back position as they look to get back into playoff contention in the NFC. So I do think he will be the lead guy, but I do think his opportunities this year are actually going to see a bit of a drop now with the addition of my favorite running back in the class, Trey Benson. Naji Harris at 25 and Zach Moss at 26. So Naji was ranked one spot lower last time, and Zach Moss was unranked because I was unsure of Cincinnati's plans at running back. So with Naji Harris, the same thing applies to him. Like, no running backs were added. I like the direction they're heading in from an offensive perspective because they added 2 offensive linemen in their top 2 picks. So theoretically, the offensive line should continue to grow in Pittsburgh, and with Arthur Smith there, maximizing both him and Jaylen Warren, I think it's a good thing for Naji. I think it'll make him more efficient like he was last year compared to his first 2 years in the NFL. So Naji Harris, low upside, I still think low ceiling, but I do think that especially now that the Pittsburgh Steelers did not pick up his 5th year in his rookie contract, he's playing on a contract year. He's going to want to show out this year. Zach Moss is officially looking like the guy at running back here for Cincinnati. I thought they would go rookie running back here. They ended up not doing that. They ended up electing to build their offensive line and continue to evolve that defense as well. So I think that Zach Moss theoretically could be a surprise guy at the running back position. I don't trust his durability, and I don't trust the flash in the pan that we saw from him in 2023, so I'm going to have him lower in these rankings for the time being. Tyjae Spears at 27 and Javonte Williams at 28. So Tyjae Spears dropped 2 spots for me, and Javonte actually rose up 1 spot. So with Tyjae, the only reason that he really dropped here is because I wanted to make a change here with Zamir White and with Zach Moss, because they're 2 clearly starting running backs, whereas Tyjae Spears is not going to be the starting running back. It will be Tony Pollard. But again, the reason Tyjae is on this list in the first place is because I do believe in this offense and them being a real sleeper in fantasy football this year. I think there's a real shot that Tennessee is a massive sleeper offense that can be super efficient, especially on the ground, because their offensive line did theoretically get a bump up in the NFL draft this year. So I like the efficiency we saw last year from him. I think the role will be very similar, but probably just more volume added on in 2024. And then Javonte Williams, I just have no excitement with him. Like, not much changes. I know they drafted Audric Estime out of Notre Dame in the 5th round, and a lot of people are actually thinking like he's kind of a sleeper running back. I'm not a huge Audric Estime guy. He's similar to Javonte, but Javonte's a better player, I think. So I think Javonte will end up seeing the majority of the backfield work. But I do also think that Javonte Williams is just so unimpressive, and it'll probably be his last year in Denver. So I just really don't see that much upside here with Javonte Williams. Rounding it out is Ramondre Stevenson at 29 and Nick Chubb at number 30 here. So with Ramondre, he dropped a spot, and nothing changes for me because I've said it all offseason. I think New England is going to be awful this year, and I think they're going to have years of irrelevancy. I don't trust the way their team is operating right now. And of course, like, it doesn't necessarily mean that Ramondre can't be good in fantasy, but I went through this on my Dynasty channel. There is history that proves, you can see that on the screen, the chart that proves bottom 5 teams are associated and directly linked with bad running back production in fantasy football. It's rare to have a top 20 running back in fantasy football on a bottom 5 team. I think New England's going to be a bottom 5 team. And Ramondre Stevenson, even though he may very well handle 20 opportunities per game, it'll keep him inside the top 30, possibly the top 25. But I do not see massive upside for him because I think they're going to have infrequent trips to the red zone opportunities, and he's not ever been a big play guy. So the chance that he hits a 50, 60-yard home run hit are less likely than probably a guy like Tyjae Spears, who definitely will see less volume, but definitely has more big play upside. And Nick Chubb at 30, look, I don't know when he's coming back. We still don't know. There's no timeline. Apparently, he's running again. That's a good sign for me. And typically, this goes against everything I believe in. Nick Chubb is closer to 30 now. He's coming off of a massive knee injury, and it's his 2nd major knee injury in his career. So theoretically, this could legitimately be career-ending. But this guy, I can't underestimate him. Nick Chubb is a monster. The whole team respects him. He just restructured his contract, took a pay cut because he believes in himself. So if Nick Chubb comes back week 5, if he is 80, 90% of what he once was, Cleveland's offensive line is still good. So I do think that the upside is still there with Nick Chubb. He could be very fluid on this list, but right now, I do think that Nick Chubb, if the continuous recovery continues to go well, I think Nick Chubb could be a top 30 guy again in fantasy football. So let me know what you think of the rankings in the comments below, and make sure you drop that like and subscribe to the channel to show your support.